Four of the worst situations in the NFL entering the 2025 season. Ladies and gentlemen, this is from Football Analysis. The New Orleans Saints were part of this list, so we're going to hear some of the qualms about the Saints, and we're going to react along the way.
Saints. Now, a couple of things need to be prefaced here with the Saints because I really like some of the moves the Saints made this offseason, and ultimately where I think this franchise could be headed, but that's a big if at this point, and there's a lot that has to happen before we get there.
All right, I like that. All right, so solid acknowledgement that, yeah, things are, maybe not great right now, but we are trending in a direction. I've said this before, but there's different ways to be in a quote-unquote bad situation. You can be in a quote-unquote bad situation with no sign of moving forward, where you're just stuck, you're just in a bad spot. You may even have a lame duck coach. You may have whatever, right? There's other situations where you can see what's trying to be done. You can see, like, okay, this is a young team, or this is a new coach, or this is a team that's, getting rid of older players. There's a lot of different ways you can be bad in the standings, okay? So, like he said, there are a lot of good things that have happened. There's a lot of positivity around where we're headed in the future. So that is important context for sure.
Given Marshawn Lattimore was aging and had been there since 2017, I really liked the Saints trading him last year and getting what they could for him.
Yeah.
It wasn't a perfect process, but anytime a team knows they are not seriously competing, and for reference, the Saints were 2-7 when they made the Lattimore trade, by all means, get what you can for the player, wish him well, and move on.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I don't know if the Commanders make that trade again. Like, it's one of those things where, it hasn't worked out for the Commanders yet. So, yeah, I think it was a great trade.
I also really like the Saints selecting Texas offensive tackle Kelvin Banks with the 9th overall pick in the 2025 draft, and think they will have a good tackle duo of the future in Banks and 2024 first-round pick Talisi Fuaga. I had both players in my top 15 of each respective draft class. But right now, I think there's a lot to be desired for.
All right, so let's take it step by step. So according to this young hombre, he likes, and we are good with the tackles, which I think we can all agree with. I think we can all agree with that sentiment. Obviously, we're good with Eric McCoy. He's one of the best centers in the NFL. If you just stop it there, if you just say, all right, no mas, and you stop it there, and you've got two good tackles on rookie contracts and one of the best centers in the NFL, that alone is not an awful place to be if you're a franchise on the up and up.
Or for really the rest of the offense and a lot of the defense too. I also think there's this underlying belief that the Saints are going to be bad or not a great team in 2025, and it'll be okay because Kellen Moore will be able to get his feet wet in year 1 and build on this in year 2. Not only that, but for anyone who does not know, the 2026 quarterback draft class is loaded, and I also think there's this belief that's definitely thought about but not really mentioned, that if Tyler Shough doesn't work out, it's completely fine because they'll draft one of Lenora Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, or Drew Aller, and they will be the next Saints franchise quarterback.
I mean, all right, you gotta... Yeah, for sure. Like if Shough is terrible, Rattler's terrible, Saints are terrible, they're picking top 5, yeah, you probably do go with one of those guys. Granted, we have no idea who it's going to be. I mean, last year at this time, Carson Beck was thought to be the number 1 overall pick. Quinn Ewers was thought to be a top 5 pick. Cam Ward wasn't even in the first round. So you know how that can change. But you got to flip it, okay? Anytime you're dealing with hypotheticals, you have to look at both sides of it. And you have to wonder, what happens if this domino falls? What happens if this domino falls? So let's say, on one hand, you have the Shough and Rattler are terrible, Saints are terrible, they draft a quarterback next year, whatever. So what happens on the other hand? What happens if Tyler Shough and or Spencer Rattler are just average? Let's say the Saints just have average quarterback play. If that happens, I think a lot of the argument of the Saints being the worst team in the NFL or whatever goes out the window. And this guy's not saying that the Saints are the worst team in the NFL, but it goes out the window, right? We're not asking Tyler Shough to be Jaden Daniels. We're just saying if he's the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th best quarterback in the NFL, just be average to just average, not even above average. And if that happens, everything kind of falls apart in as far as the argument goes for the Saints being really, really bad. It's all built into the quarterback, the unknown of the quarterback, which is totally fair. But you do have to give the possibility of the positive side of the unknown.
And everything will be fine after that. I didn't mention Arch Manning because there's a very good possibility he returns to Texas for another year.
Yeah.
But the point is, I don't like where this franchise is today, and honestly, it has nothing to do with Derek Carr not being their quarterback this year, because I didn't like where this franchise was prior to him retiring either.
I think if you're a Saints fan and you're looking at the last couple of years, you would have to say this is the best you've felt about the team in a long time, right? I mean, I don't think that's insane. Dennis Allen's not the head coach. Salary cap's getting better. We're getting younger. We just had 9 draft picks. Kellen Moore is awesome. We've got 2 years ago, we had the worst offensive line in the NFL. Now we're talking about the offensive line being a strength. Like, things are chill. You know, like right now, just for a Saints fan, since Breeze left, this has to be the best you have felt about the team, just where it is. It might not be the best as far as like the win-loss and all that stuff, but just where it is, where the team is right now, where they are heading, this is the best time since Peyton left. And that is, I would say, not even an argument. Because you can't possibly say like, no. I liked when Trevor Siemian was the guy. No. I liked when Andy Dalton was the guy. No. I liked when Jameis Winston or when Dennis Allen was the coach or Pete Carmichael was the OC. Like, none of those are options, right? So it's a very unique situation because, you know, the Saints are criminally underrepresented, I think, nationally as far as like the media or whatever. And it's hard to kind of understand the machinations of what's taking place within this team if you're not really paying attention to it. I'm not saying this guy's not, but I feel great about this team. And I'm not saying like I feel like, oh yeah, they're going to be a top 10 team. Yeah, top 10 offense, top 10 defense, 10 wins, no doubt. None of that. If you told me the Saints win 6 games, I'd be like, damn, we're right on it. We're on pace.
I think they've done a couple of good things right, like prioritizing the offensive line the way they have over the past few years, and credit to Mickey Loomis for doing so, but I look at this offense and question how many teams they are going to be able to legitimately outscore in 2025 over the course of a 60-minute football game. Now, one thing I do want to mention is having Eric McCoy for the entirety of the year, as he is a really, really underappreciated player nationally, and he missed some time in 2024, which certainly affected their offense.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about this countless times on the channel, but you can't openly tank in the NFL. You can't go up to Cam Jordan at 36 years old and say, hey Cam, can you purposely miss a few tackles or purposefully hit the wrong gap so we have a better shot at winning after you retire? I also question this team's defense with Brandon Staley as the team's defensive coordinator, and I don't think this team wins more than 7 games this year. Obviously, every team can't win 12 or 13 games, but I also don't think this team has a lot of young talent either, to the
This team, it does have a lot of young talent. Like, if you look around, it's very youthful. I mean, you look around, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler. I mean, I understand they're not young in the grand scheme of things as far as like, you know, one's 27, one's 26, but still, rookie, first year, offensive line is super young. Two rookie first year tackles, Trevor Penning at left guard. See how that goes. 9 draft picks brought in. Chase Young, and Brian Brzee on the inside. There is youth there. And that's part of us turning the book, is that we're kind of bringing in these big waves of youthful players. Like Cam Jordan, Cam didn't even play 50% of defensive snaps last year. You know, like Cam has already been being rotated out from being our main guy off the edge. Like, we're not asking him to get 10 sacks. We're not asking him to get to be a leader off the edge. He doesn't start. Like, he is, again, he did not play 50% of defensive snaps last year. So if the argument is, well, the Saints are old because Cam Jordan this, Cam Jordan that, Saints already know that. The Saints, Carl Granderson and Chase Young is who we have off the edge. It's been like that, So, and this guy said, well, I don't think they win more than 7 games. 7 games is an enormous success for the Saints. Enormous. With all the turnaround we've had, with all the transition we've had, with how bad they were last year. If we win 7 games, that means Tyler Shough and or Spencer Rattler is working out. If that means Kellen Moore is working out, that means the Saints are successful. That is good to go. And that is a far cry away from being the worst team in the NFL. I mean, the 49ers won 6 games last year. So 7, huge success.
The point where I am legitimately excited about their future.
Yeah.
I obviously wish the best for receiver Chris Olave, but there are reasons to be concerned about him in the long run. And the receiving core is very thin after Olave, and I think there are more questions than answer at this point in time with New Orleans. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this team had the number 1 pick in 2026 because, remember, Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler are projects at best at this point in time, and one thing I also worry about with the Saints is this division isn't strong. They don't have Baltimore or Cincinnati in their division who can put up 30 points in any half of football like the Browns have to worry about. The Saints went 2-4 in the division last year, and you never know with the NFC South. While I like Carolina and Atlanta's future, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints split games with each team just like they did last year.
Ryan Miller.
Jesus. I've done this a couple times over the years, and I'll do it again. Carolina and Atlanta are interesting. It's exactly what I was talking about earlier, where you have to look at both sides of the hypothetical. Right now, people are tending to look at the positive side of Atlanta and Carolina. And they have been with Atlanta for the last couple of years. But they are not allowing for the possibility of the negative. They are not allowing for the possibility that Michael Penix might not be good. They are not allowing for the possibility that Bryce Young might not be good, even though 80% of his time in the NFL, he's been absolutely horrific. They err on the positive side where it's like, oh, no. Bryce Young will be good. Their future is good. They're building something. No. Michael Penix is good. Everybody, Kyle Pitts will figure it out. But they really, like Atlanta and Carolina both, have not really shown anything that would lead you to believe that they're trending in the right direction. Kyle, let's just call it what it is. Kyle Pitts is a huge bust. Huge bust. Horrible. Okay? Terrible. Raheem Morris, I don't like him as a head coach. Not a fan. And Penix is a question mark, just like Bryce Young is a question mark. And you look at the Saints playmakers, and you look at the Panthers playmakers, I would say it's a toss-up. Because we don't know about Tet McMillan. All right? We could err on the side of positive that he'll be amazing, he'll be great. But we don't know. We don't know in Bryce Young. We don't know in Michael Penix. We don't know in any of this. All right? So the same questions that are negatives for the Saints are positives for the Falcons and the Panthers. So it's a cautionary tale. And, yes, at a certain point, when I do agree with what this guy said, like we have way more questions than answers. The Saints do have way more questions than answers. They are a volatile team, just like the Panthers and the Falcons. Very volatile situations. And that's what happens with young teams. And that's what happens with teams in a transition. You just don't know. When you bring in 9 draft picks and you have a rookie head coach and you have, all this stuff changing, you don't know. We can't sit here and unequivocally say, oh, all of our draft picks will be sweet. Danny Stutzman will be an all defensive rookie. Quincy Riley, all defensive rookie. Devin Neal will be this. Absolutely no clue. But you do have to allow for the possibility that it does work out.
With the Saints right now, I think there's a belief where they're heading into 2025 with a mindset of whatever happens, happens, and even if we don't do good, we'll still have a top 2 or 3 pick in the 2026 draft and get our quarterback at the future. But this roster is very thin and not to mention old at a lot of positions too, and I really don't like the position the New Orleans Saints are currently in. Next up is the Cleveland...
Yeah, I just don't understand... I don't get that last part. I don't understand the I can get there if you tell me the Saints are not going to be good this year. Sure, I could absolutely get there. But when you compare where the Saints have been for the last couple of years and where they are right now, financially, roster-wise, coaching-wise, draft pick-wise, all that stuff, I don't think you can say that you like. I don't think you can say you don't like where they are. It seems like everything's pretty sweet from where I'm sitting, and you know, I don't know. I mean, I would. It's kind of similar. Like a lot of these teams on his list. So he's got the Giants. He's got the Colts. He's got the Saints. The Jaguars are on there. Okay. See, like I would rather be in the Saints situation than the Jaguars situation or the Browns situation. He's got the Browns on there too. Like the Giants are I think the Giants are in a good spot. If I'm the Giants, I'm like, brother, we're feeling good. We've got Abdul Carter. We got a quarterback of the future. We got a veteran in Russell Wilson, Brian Daboll. Okay. We got something moving and shaking. We got Malik Neighbors. Like things are chill. Things are okay right now if you're the Giants. Yeah, I don't expect the Giants to win the NFC East, but compared to where they've been the last couple of years, you got to feel pretty good, right? The Jags, I don't know. Big time trade, gave up an absolute ton to get a player that I don't know. You know, like how what do you believe in Travis Hunter? You got $300 million wrapped up in a quarterback who's 30 games under 500. Okay, so you got some real, and you have a 35-year-old GM. I'd feel way worse if I was in Jacksonville or Cleveland or maybe even Indy than if I was in New Orleans. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.